talk about the market again, and we have to talk about why the market is going up and up and up and up. But today, let's talk about the Chinese market a little bit more. Okay, so I'm pretty sure that you are looking at the news as it is. You know for a fact that the market is relatively healthy at the moment. But for the Chinese market, even though that the market is actually going up, there is not really a good reason behind why it is going up. And today, we're going to be talking about it. Okay, so before we actually continue, China actually came up with this whole entire extension of policy for them to actually support the property market. For people who are unaware of the whole entire situation back in 2021 or 2022, I forgot, either one of the year, it's a blur. But with the whole entire Evergrande situation, I'm pretty sure that you either read about it, heard about it, or just heard about someone talk about it. Okay, and the whole entire Evergrande situation basically is just a lack of money going into the property market. Be it people who are buying the houses and the developers not having enough assets or money or liquidation for them to actually help to support finish developing all these different projects, or it could just be like people not having enough money to just complete with whatever houses there is. This whole entire thing just kind of puts China in the back seat, where the whole entire market was kind of in its own movement. China was just left at the back because of Evergrande situation. Okay, but today the whole entire market is kind of rallying just because today I'm recording this on a Monday, to be fair. So on Friday, the Chinese market basically everyone just kind of just roared upwards, up to like 10% on some of the names. Like for Alibaba, they actually went up by like 8% or something ridiculous. And we have to talk about why this actually happened. Okay, so a article on the Wall Street Journal kind of just made me like kind of caught my eye a little bit, which is deflation looms in China as rebound loses steam. Okay, so as you all already know that we were in a hyperinflationary environment. Right now it's kind of ambiguous because you do not know if we are really in a hyperinflationary environment or are we completely out of it. But the thing is that right now inflation is not continuously going upwards. So right now it's more so that we have plateaued at a very high inflation rate rather than us continuously going upwards and upwards. So that's kind of where we are kind of at for inflation. Okay, because usually what happens is that we are gonna have small bump up of 2%, 2%, 2%, 2%, 2%, 2% over the years. What's happening here is that we got a bump up of 6%, and then we got another bump up of like 3% or 4%, and then another bump up of like 2%, and then 2%, 2%, 2% again. So right now we're basically at this point where we should actually be on this at this point. Okay, but the weird part is that we kind of want deflation to happen, but the thing about deflation is that it can actually get out of control. Similar to how inflation can get out of control, deflation can get out of control as well, which is why everything in moderation. So the whole reason of how inflation actually works in just the bare theory of it is just the demand is higher than the supply, hence inflated prices. Okay, but now we have an inverse of that actually happening in China, which is the demand is going to be lower than the supply. Okay, which because let's be honest, when the whole entire inflation thing happened, okay, the manufacturing side, which a lot of time China is playing a huge contributing part to the supply side. When we had a huge hyperinflated economy, China double down on all their supply side to ensure that they are able to cover up on every single possible end for them to actually prop up this entire market to ensure that hyperinflation do not happen. Because if there is a high demand, we just need to bring out our supply to meet those demands, and then hyperinflation wouldn't happen. That's kind of how we actually suffice all these kind of balancing things. Right now, what's actually happening is because when demand is brought up to this high, and then you kind of want to bring up the supply to this much so that inflation do not go overboard. But right now what's happening is that the demand basically just plot all the way down, but supply is still at the same high level as demand was. So this whole entire thing right now is a huge imbalance that is happening in the whole entire market. And then with this whole sudden huge amount of supply with not enough demand in the market, this guy just caused a very weird imbalance to happen in the whole entire market. Because if the demand is too little right now, with the supply being so high, that means that prices have to drop. So for example, whatever that you're going to be manufacturing, be it cars, be it chips, be it accessories, be it clothing, apparel, like even down to your different housing coverings, your windows, your curtains, things of that nature. Everything that has already been supplied have been supplied, will be supplied, and there's not enough demand around it. And what would actually happen is that people would either have to buy a more storage space for them to actually keep all these different supplies of items, or they have to sell it at a cheaper price. And that's kind of what's going to be happening with China in the next 5 to 10 years, most likely. Okay, because the thing is that chances are prices are going to continue to drop. Okay, for example, in 2019, let's just say you buy a car at $10,000. Okay, in 2023, cars are now say $15,000. But the thing is that in 2026, the cars might actually be going down all the way. In 2026, you might actually see it at $8,000. Okay, you might think that this is a good thing because that means that prices are actually gradually gonna be coming down. Okay, but the thing is that the huge risk that we actually was worrying about during hyperinflation was that we were worried that this $10,000 will go way higher than just $15,000. We were worried that this $10,000 would actually go to $30,000. That's the hyperinflated trend that we were worried about. So similarly, it's going to be the same thing downwards for deflation, which is why. So for example, right now, if I were to actually put out just a very rare casual trend, thinking that a deflationary trend for a car, it might actually go down to $8,000, for example. But the thing is that might not actually be the case, because if deflation were to hit even harder than we think, which means that demand completely just flatline, and then we still have such a huge amount of supply that no one wants. No one wants all this different supply, and this supply would just somehow have to find a way to get flushed out of the market, and they would have to just kill off their prices even if they have to sell it at a loss, because they would actually have to pay more money to keep all these different supplies rather than sell it at a loss. So chances are they could even sell it at like $4,000, $5,000 for those different cars that I was actually talking about in that particular example. So that's kind of how deflation would actually screw up this whole entire economy. Because the thing is that we basically got past the hyperinflationary trend, which is that we are now basically confirmed to not have a hyperinflationary trend. We might have high inflation. We are not in hyperinflationary territory, but we're still in high inflation because you're still looking at about 4% year-over-year inflation, whereas we are kind of aiming for 2%. Okay, but nevertheless, prices are still ridiculously high, and prices are most likely going to be staying high for quite an extended period of time. So for China, on the other hand, the thing is that prices have been going up because hyperinflation is going to be affecting everyone the same. It doesn't mean that just because they're in China, inflation is not going to touch them. Just because they're in America, inflation is going to touch them. It's not the case. Inflation is going to be hitting everyone because globalization is a thing. People are trading with everyone globally. People are buying things globally. People are selling things globally. People are using things globally. Hyperinflation is going to be working throughout the whole entire world. It doesn't really make a difference. So, for how China basically having the inflation kind of flatline a little bit, because right now it means that inflation is not exactly going up anymore. The fear now is deflation happening. Okay, and of course that's going to be opening up the Pandora's box all over again, which is that we do not know what's going to be happening. Because deflation can be it could be way worse than hyperinflation. Hyperdeflation is going to be way worse than hyperinflation. Because if prices all just drop to zero, there's no way for you to actually get more money. It's kind of the inverse of the wage price spiral, which is like the more money you earn makes you spend more money, hence you have a higher wage, which makes you spend more money, and then you kind of just spiral upwards. Okay, but the thing is that if you have a wage price spiral for deflationary in the inverse manner, it's going to be completely different, because the thing is that it means prices are going to be too low. Okay, they are not going to be able to make money on the amount of goods that they actually have. They will have to start laying off employees who are already working in the company, who are essential to the business, that cannot be laid off. They will have to take a pay cut because the things that the business is not making money. Okay, and then they will have to kind of just, for example, if I'm earning $5,000 a month, now I'm actually be earning $4,000 a month, a pay cut. And the thing is that it doesn't really matter because prices of items are all going down. Getting a pay cut wouldn't really affect you because, for example, if you're buying, a meal in the market, previously it was $10, you're going to be paying $8. Getting a $1,000 per month drop in your pay doesn't really affect you. effectively. Okay, it's the same as how you're gonna be putting it inverse for a wage price spiral, for an inflationary trend. So if you're doing a deflationary trend, basically that's what we're looking at. Okay, so when that actually happens, it means that there is a clear bottom, which is $0, right? Because the thing is that you're not going to be selling things for $0, nor are you going to be paid $0 for your wages. And that's why that's even more dangerous, because the thing is that if we actually get to $0, then what actually happens from there on out, you know? Which is why deflationary trend usually is just this weird Pandora box that people don't really want to open up. Deflation do happen in the economy from time to time. I do think that deflation do happen, like, you know, maybe every 50 years or so. It does happen from time to time, I'm not gonna lie. Because the thing is that when you have hyperinflationary trends, usually it follows with a deflationary trend, which is why the thing is that I'm kind of still bearish on the market, which I have always been talking about. Okay, just because we are over with the inflationary prices doesn't mean that we are completely out of the woods. Okay, nothing is certain from there on out, because the thing is that prices are still going to be remaining high. People are still going to not be able to afford things. Okay, and if let's just say people are able to afford things, that's not going to make it any better, because that means that prices are just going to continuously go up even more. So it's kind of like a lose-lose battle in my eyes, which is why I'm still kind of short on the market. Okay, but yeah, besides that, which is why I'm thinking that, you know, China is most likely going to be the first country for us to actually see how deflation is going to be hitting the country as a nation as it is. So I will be, you know, just keeping a close eye on China to see what will actually happen with the whole entire economy, seeing how deflation is most likely going to be hitting them first, and then most likely that will kind of give us a predicted, like an estimated prediction of what would actually happen to the rest of the economy when inflation and deflation eventually hit us as well. But yeah, anyway, that's all I have for this video. I really want to talk about this because kind of just puts whatever I had in mind into words about the whole entire inflation, deflation, and everything. But anyway, that's all I have for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.